we've done so far with the preterite has been very, very simple. It's just been like Spanish 1 where we take off the endings and then add our new preterite endings that match the subject. That's great, and I know we just took a quiz over it and y'all know all of your endings perfectly. Well, now we're going to get to the headache part of it. There are some spelling changes in the preterite just because of the way the letters are set up. It causes different sounds, and we want to keep the same sound throughout, and that's why there are spelling changes. So let's get to the first one. We have CAR, GAR, and ZAR verbs. That's what I'm going to call them. And they're the verbs that end in CAR, they end in GAR, and they end in ZAR. So they're always AR verbs, just that end with a stem of C, G, and Z. So like empezar, pagar, comenzar, there's a ton of verbs that just end in these. And the reason being, in Spanish 1, we learned that whenever a C is in front of a hard vowel, like an A, an O, or a U, it has the K sound. But whenever it's running in front of an E or an I, it has the S sound. And same thing for G versus G or H. And so this is why we have to change it, because the yo form of an AR verb is an E with an accent, that's a soft vowel, and it changes the G and the K and the Z. So that's why we have to change them. So only the yo form is irregular and everything else is completely normal. We conjugate it just the same as we always would. So let's look at what they turn into. So whenever we have a CAR verb, only the yo form is going to change, and the new ending is going to be K. We're doing this to keep the K sound. GAR is going to turn into gay. So we have the G sound. And then ZAR is going to turn into say to keep the Z sound. And notice they all have accents on the E because they're AR verbs. Now let's do some practice. Okay. We are going to do the yo form of all these verbs, and we have buscar. So we want to say I looked for. So we're going to take off our AR like we just did, and for the yo form, we're going to put, didn't take off. I didn't take off the CAR, GAR, and ZAR. Sorry. So we have bus, and then we're going to take off the CAR, and we're going to put K. So busque. For llegar, we want to say I arrived. So it's going to be yo, ye, gay. And then for empezar, I started, it's going to be empe, and then a C-E. So empece. So it's not that much different, it's just a little step further than we've normally done whenever we were conjugating verbs. Just a little spelling change, only in the yo form. So let's do some more practice. So right now, you pause this and you go through and conjugate all these verbs for the subject given. Now let's check your work really fast. Okay, so we have yo and buscar. Okay, it has a yo and it ends in a car. So we're going to take all of this off and it's going to be busque. Awesome. So yo busque, I looked for. And then we have to and comenzar. Okay, it's a ZAR verb, but it's a to. So we're not going to do anything different. We're just going to conjugate it normally. So it's going to be comenzaste. Comenzaste. Then yo and pagar. Okay, it's a GAR verb. We see it right there. And it has a yo as the subject. So we're going to have a spelling change. So it's going to be yo pa gay. We're going to add our U in there. Moving on. We have ellos and buscar. Okay, ellos is our subject. We don't have to worry about it. So we're going to take off our AR and we're going to put aron. So ellos buscaron. Then we have yo and comenzar. Okay, we have the yo as a subject and we have a ZAR verb. So it's going to have a spelling change. So it's going to be comense. Okay, the next one we have yo and jugar. Okay, GAR verb, yo is the subject, so it's going to change. So it's not going to be this anymore. We're going to have a G-U-E. So jugué. So I played. And our last two, we have el and practicar. So we got a CAR verb, but our subject is an L, so we're not going to do anything different. So take off the AR, el practico. so he practiced. And the very last one, yo and al more ZAR. Okay, we have a yo as a subject and a ZAR verb, so we have a spelling change. We're going to take all of this off, and it's going to be yo al more se. So those are GAR, GAR, and ZAR verbs. They're really easy. Only the yo gets a spelling change. Okay, the next type of spelling change that we have are with verbs whose stems end with a vowel. So a refresher, if you don't remember what a verb whose stem ends in a vowel is, it's one of these verbs like right here. So whenever we're conjugating a verb, we always take off the ending first, so the ER, and this is called the stem. It's what we're left with, and notice it ends with a vowel. The same thing happens with crayer. When we take the ER off, we're left with cray. It ends with an E. The same thing with O-ear, we're left with an O, and then for caer, we're left with an A. So these are the stems that end with a vowel once we take the ending off. Here we have some rules here that will help you establish a pattern, so whenever you see these type of verbs, you can conjugate them correctly in Spanish. They have the same sound when you pronounce it, but when it's written on paper, that's where the difference comes in. So all of the endings receive an accent on the I. Okay, they were all ER and IR verbs. So layer is an ER verb, caer is an ER verb, oer is an IR verb. So they're never going to have the AR ending, so they're always going to be the ER, IR. And so all the I's have an accent on them. All of the ER, IR endings anyway start with an I, so just go ahead and put a little accent whenever you have these type of verbs. And the second rule is that there's a spelling change within the endings of the L and the AOS form. Whenever we did the present progressive, we had some cases where the I had to change to a Y because there are so many vowels smushed together, it just didn't sound right. And so the same thing happens here. So the I is going to go to a Y. So in the L form, io, it's not going to be io anymore, it's going to be yo, and the I goes to a Y. So leyo. Then we have hieron, and it's going to turn into hieron. So the I turned into the Y only in the L form and the AOS form. So let's go ahead and practice. Y'all's favorite thing to do. So we have the verb layer. So step one, like always, take off the ER, and we're left with a stem that ends with a vowel. And so we put our lay in each of the blanks. Lay in each of the blanks. Now it's time to go and add the ending that matches the subject. So remember with rule 1 that all of the I's get accents in these endings. So it's not going to be lay. So this one, it had an accent anyway. 2 form is going to be leíste. And the I gets an accent. Okay, for the L form, that's where we had our spelling change. The I goes to a Y. So we're going to have el leyo. Accent on the O. Okay, nosotros is going to be leímos. Accent on the I again. Vosotros leísteis. Accent on the I. And then the ellos form is going to be leyeron. Okay, notice the I changed to a Y here just because so many vowels are smushed together. Now pause this really fast and you do crayer. Okay, let's go through and check it. So step 1 is take off the ER and we're left with cray. So our stem ends with a vowel. So we have to add an accent to all the stems, or all the endings that end with an I, and we have to do a spelling change in the L and AOS form. So the yo form is going to be cray. The 2 form, creíste, accent on the I. L is going to be creyó, accent on the O. Nosotros creímos. Vosotros creísteis. And then ellos, we're going to have a spelling change here again. So the I goes to a Y. And it's going to be creyeron. So those weren't too bad. We don't have very many. I think the only ones we have so far is layer, oer, caer, and creer. So those are really the only 4 that you really have to deal with this. So pay close attention to those, and when you see them, you know you're going to have to do something different.